Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
We'll get you back to your regularly scheduled podcast in just a minute, but we wanted to introduce ourselves. I'm Jason.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Blake on this highly produced advertisement.
That's right. It's the History of Bad Ideas, a.k.a. Hobie. You can find us on Twitter at Bad Ideas Podcast and on Facebook at the History of Bad Ideas. But if you like a podcast roundtable with 3 to 5 guests, usually every week, depending on sick leave, talking about all things geek, including movies,
TV.
I ain't getting paid for this shit.
Blake bitching about something and ranting, and comic books and anything else that we can think of. We have a top 5 list every week, along with a box office news, and somehow we have listeners. So they send us some feedback we answer every week. You can find us on iTunes,
Stitcher,
Facebook,
Spotify,
and any good podcast app, because if you can't find us on that podcast app, it's not a good podcast app.
Damn straight. Roger says goodbye.
Goodbye.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. My name is Jen, and I am your hostess for the evening. With me, as always, we have Brian and
New host. Oh,
Yeah, exactly. And with you, not as always.
yeah. Filling in for Jen, Henno.
Yes, exactly.
They're not appearing in our podcast for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Glad to have you, dude.
Yeah.
So what's been going on? Fill us in. What's all the
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What's been fun and exciting? Well, the first time I missed is because I had to go in and fix a leak in the women's locker room.
Hot.
Yeah, which
I'm picturing
there's a
it went
reason why.
it went like Porky's, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
so here's the crazy thing is I have gone into we have on occasion,
Mhm.
and I just stopped doing it because on Sunday nights the health club closes earlier, and I'll just take off early on a Sunday, go to the gym early, and then come back in later at night and do work there, just because those women will actually like catcall and whistle. I go in during the day.
Well, it probably doesn't help that you're in there and you're like, taking your shirt off and wearing your shorty shorts and what have you,
And my tool belt, of
Yeah,
course.
of course.
Which I'm not even using.
Right, no. You don't even have tools relevant to the job in it.
Yeah, just wear the tool belt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it's funny how it's like it used to be, I don't want to inconvenience them, and now it's just like I just want to get out with my my hide that's still attached.
Wow.
Because these ladies crazies in there.
Dang. Wow.
Yeah, but this time we had a leak. I just love how we do things at work. We'll replace. There was a bad batch of copper pipe installed, and in a few places it just shoots little pinholes.
Oh, jeez.
And it's literally like a stream of water that is so fine that you can't see it. Sometimes you can hear it, but most of the time it's so small that until it hits you in the face or some part of your body, you can't even tell it's there.
Mm.
And there's certain places where we finally just replaced all the pipe, except over the women's locker room. The last time they replaced the section, they literally didn't change 1 inch. 1 inch.
Wow.
Just all you had to do is that 1 inch, and guess where the leak popped out? It was in
that one little inch.
in that 1 little inch.
Yep.
So came in, just fixed it and took care of it. But yeah, it's just that is the stuff I laugh at. And we talk about it every time, and it still just baffles me that no one just says, "Hey, why don't we replace all of
Yeah.
it?"
Yeah.
We have had so many leaks. Let's just replace all of it.
It's amazing,
And
isn't it?
so-
We live in a throwaway world, but at the same time, when it comes to stuff like that, people just want to patch. They don't want to actually fix things.
Yeah.
Like,
But we all know, we've all experienced what happens when you do that versus just taking care of all of it at once. It ends up costing more. It takes more time. It's more inconvenience.
Yep.
It's always like that. And it's just, and we've done that with certain things, where it's like, okay, this is a problem. Let's just take care of all of it.
Yeah.
But in this one instance, it just makes me laugh. But then after that, I got lovely case of conjunctivitis. And for those of you who don't know what that is pink eye.
Mm-hmm.
I now know everything there is to know about pink eye, including its many forms, which is viral, bacterial, allergic, and foreign object.
And that's the topic of the show. No.
Yeah, exactly. No, you can check out Salty Language from a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And its gory details. At least I had, I was able to catch up with Brian in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
But that was a bummer. It was just a bummer. And it's still, here's the worst part, is it went from one eye into the other.
Yeah, that seems to happen to a lot of people. So,
yeah, and I used my last antibiotics over the weekend. Here's a weird one. So I went first. The best story, and I already shared this on Salty Language, but for those of you who don't listen to Salty Language, you're gonna love this because I play in a band with a doctor. he literally at the gig looked at my eye and said, "What's your date of birth?" And I'm like, "Why do you want my date of birth?" He's like, "Because I'm calling in a prescription for that thing for you tomorrow."
For that thing.
terrible.
That's how you know it's bad, when someone starts referring
yeah.
to it as its own entity.
Yeah, I mean, it was closing and it was red. He's like, "Did you get something in your eye?" And I'm like, I think so. I don't know. You know, I had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, after a week, it didn't go down. And so I went to go see my doctor, and he's just like, "Okay, it sounds like it's bacterial and not the other, you know, because I already take antihistamines all the time for my allergies.
Yeah.
So it's not allergies. And even though I do get stuff in my eyes, it's, you know, it was obviously, you know, not that usually clears itself up pretty quick. And so he gave me antibiotics, and that helped a lot. And then that's when the other eye started going bad. And so I put antibiotics in that eye, and then they ran out yesterday, and I was at work today, and all day long my eyes were bothering me. I'm like, "Great, it's coming back. It's coming back." And I got home and I pulled my backpack out, and I realized I hadn't taken my antihistamines and decongestant today. I was like,
no.
Way to go, dummy. You know, because I've never realized it, but I probably have a certain amount of conjunctivitis all the time from my allergies, but I treat my allergies every day. So yeah, that was my fun little health issue. And but in the meantime, I had anniversary with my wife, which was our 2nd year anniversary. And the day of the anniversary, we had a show in town, and it was Ziggy Marley and Michael Fronte. And I thought we were just gonna, go, we'd just go out and have some dinner. Well, the next thing you know, I have a friend who had tickets who says he's not going. And it was like, "I'll be over to your house right now.
Yeah, right.
This is going to be perfect." So we went and enjoyed
that's perfect
a nice
timing
show together. Oh yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, it was great. So went and enjoyed a nice show. That was amazing. And let's see. Other than that, I had last week was just some. I've been keeping everyone up to date with financial stuff, and I had this moment. Was it like week before last, where what I had talked about and what I'd hoped for back in March, when it was like, just one thing hitting me after another, that, in so many months I'll just forget about that. I realized that had happened, and that there was none of that, there was no resentment anymore. There was nothing tying me to those emotions.
Right.
I had let them go then, and they were let go. And this last week, some things, because of financial stuff, I'd moved some things around, and, I hadn't been paying everything. And it was one of those ones where I went online again and say, "Okay, it's time to check where everything's at." And it was just like, "Okay, I got to deal with this. Okay, I got to deal with this. I got to deal with this." And it was the right thing to do to not be in that over the last few months. But it's always a reminder that it doesn't matter. You can't ignore a problem.
Yeah.
No matter what, it's not going to go away. Not looking at it doesn't make it stop.
Well, especially financial ones.
Especially financial stuff. And I was aware.
Or conjunctivitis.
That too.
Yeah.
I was aware it was there, and I knew something had to change, that I was going to have to make some changes. But at the time, it was like, now's not the time, because it would have felt like I'm just beating myself up.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens when I get into financial stuff, because it's the one place in my life where things aren't quite complete yet. I talk a lot about there is no finish line with recovery. The thing with money stuff is there actually can be a finish line.
Yeah.
Certain things there can be. Now, that's not to say that it's over. You still have to be diligent. And I guess in a lot of ways, it's no different than my alcoholism, meaning that I achieved not drinking.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop me from being an alcoholic.
Right.
Right. And the same thing, I can get out of debt, but that doesn't mean that I still don't have money problems.
Yeah.
Or I like to call my relationship with money could still be unhealthy.
Yeah. Because you could just as easily go right back into that. That's the
Exactly.
part with money.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
like alcoholism or any other kind of addiction thing is like you could easily go, okay, well, I've got all my bills paid off. I have all this extra money now, and start spending like an idiot. And
But there is one thing with that money does have, or I should say debt has in common with drug and alcohol abuse, is that you can stop, using credit. You can stop having credit cards. You can have abstinence with it.
Mm-hmm.
And still, it gets harder in this world, but you can do cash. You can do various other forms of, now you can do Apple Pay, come right out of your checking account, that kind of stuff. You can use technology today to not even ever pull out a credit card.
Yeah.
And that is different. And I've said this over and over again. That's different than codependency because we have to deal with people. It's different than having an eating problem because you have to eat.
Yeah.
It's like those are things where you have to live a life of moderation.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like with me, I stopped drinking. That's it. It's done. I don't drink.
Yeah.
That's a line right there. And the same thing with debt. I can say I am not, accumulating debt anymore. But like I said, it was last week was one of those, okay, I need to look at this. Okay, let's do, and then it was like, and then it's like, okay, Sharon, where are you at? We need to, enough time has gone by. Let's look at this again. But the good news is Jamaica got paid off this week.
Nice.
Because that was one of my big fears.
Mm-hmm.
Paying off Jack's not a problem. I got a ton of gigs coming up this month that I'm looking forward to. Like this week alone, I'm gonna be playing on the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm
nice.
super stoked about it.
Same,
the
same band or different?
No, different bands.
Different bands.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
Wednesday nights they do a local thing down here in Haley where it benefits some community organization, and it could be the firefighters, it could be the fireworks on 4th of July, it could be Advocates, which is a shelter for women. But that's Wednesday night, and then we got asked to do Thursday night up in Ketchum at this local hotel, which was like, oh, that'd be great, 6 to 9. It's after all the daytime celebrations, before the fireworks. That'll be cool. And then Friday night's the big one up at the lake that I've just been looking forward to all year. I cannot wait. That's going to be the best. That's like literally a show. That is a show that I would do for free, just because I've always imagine a big the hotel there, and there's cabins everywhere, but it's kind of like a lodge, like log cabin lodge that's right on the side of a lake. They have a stage there and a big lawn. And right there to the left is the docks, and they've got all everything that they rent, paddle boards and boats and stuff like that, and you're playing there with the mountains in the background. I'll post some pictures for sure. It is just the most amazing setting to go see live music, and to also finally be able to be on the stage, which I've always wanted to play there because everyone's just having a great time.
Nice.
And that's what I love about playing music, is that I love that exchange.
Yeah. And it definitely helps if you're playing somewhere where everyone's having a good time. Like it's not I don't know what I'm going into scenario. It's everyone's there having a good time. So that's cool.
Everyone's got their dogs, their family, kids are running around. It's going to be really awesome. So, and let's see what else has happened in the last. That's really about it. Other than the usual stuff that happens for everybody, card needs to go to the shop, and when's my dentist appointment? All that good stuff. Oh, all right. There is one more thing. I'm pretty sure my dad had a stroke.
Oh no!
Gosh.
So I called him. I guess it's been 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. I'll call. I was going on to my last gig, and that was 3 weeks ago, and it was on a Friday, and I couldn't talk to my dad at all over the phone, like at all. I'm like, okay, and when my mom visited.
You mean like he couldn't converse with you, or
he was not connecting with me at all. And when my mom was here last time, she had to yell on the phone because it was mostly because of his hearing.
Yeah.
but even still, we've been able to have some sort of small talk, and it was kind of unusual. And my mom called me the next day, and we talked, and big deal. And then about a week later, my sister sends me an email because my mom hadn't told me about this, but my sister sent me an email that my dad was forgetting to do real simple things. And my sister had gone over there, and she noticed that what hand he was favoring and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I think it sounds like a stroke. And I'm like, I think he had a small stroke too. And his entire family has had strokes, like everybody.
Yeah.
It's almost guaranteed. And so I was just patient, and I just waited until I could talk to my mom. And so then finally I did get on the phone with my mother, and, it was still remarkable. My family just is, I am never surprised, but it still shocks me that they try to play everything off as something else. And, it's like, oh, he's just getting old. He's almost 90. And it's like, no, she starts describing what he hasn't been able to do. And, that he's not reading, and he can't do some simple things like shaving, and even, he's just forgetting stuff. And I go, it sounds like a stroke, Mom. I mean, like it, my uncle had a couple of that was the other thing, is my mom was like, oh, well, his brother Ivo, he went down fast because of his age. And I'm like, no, he had strokes. He had a series of them, really small ones, until one was big enough. And I just was like, have you contacted his doctor? And she said, yeah, I emailed him, but he's on vacation right now. Hopefully we'll see him next week. And I was like, okay, good. And I started to keep redirecting her to that, it's like, there's nothing wrong with looking at what can be the legitimate problem, because then you could treat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to dismiss it as something else doesn't help anybody, and especially doesn't help my father.
Yeah. Well, and if it is like a stroke or whatever, it's like there are things, kind of like physical therapy things he could do at home or himself to kind of try to, get back to, using, like if he started favoring his other hand, like trying to force himself to use the other hand again,
This is the problem is like my mother says that I noticed my dad uses two hands to do anything.
Okay.
And my mother, and what my mother says, when when he saw the doctor the last time, they had checked his hands and his thumbs. Basically, he has no strength in his thumbs because he doesn't use them anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right? So he's at a point where he doesn't do anything physically. His body is shutting down.
Yeah.
But he doesn't care. Like he doesn't. And now, not being able to read, at the very least, he would still come downstairs and read. Yeah. He's still a voracious reader, but he's like, I can't comprehend simple things, and so he's able to have a certain amount of conversation. That's why I'm like, this is not just him. Just no one just deteriorates like that in 3 weeks. Something happens to them.
Yeah, yeah.
But the problem is where my mother was talking about. She's like, I don't want to put you in a home because, frankly, my mother doesn't want to have to go visit one because she went through it with her mother. And, the people there are wonderful, but it's practically a death sentence.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I got a grandma that's, what's she now? 102 or 101? I always forget. Anyway, and things on her, she just keeps, like her sight's pretty much gone now. She's mixing things up more with her finances. She's doing, it's like all the little things are adding up to where, as much as nobody wants to, at some point here, if she keeps living, she's probably going to have to go into a home, and none of us want to do it, but, at some point, none of us can also take care of all of these things she's going to need, so it's tough, but yeah, and nobody likes going to those places, whether it's going in as a person going into one or just going to visit. They're not fun places generally to go. There's a lot of times a feeling of kind of gloom on them because, like you said, I think most people see them as death sentences.
Yeah, it really is. And I saw my uncle,
Yeah.
and I could, I shared this when I saw him. It's like he didn't want to be there,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and I think my dad's just hit that point where he's kind of done.
Yeah.
Yet he's still alive,
Yeah.
but he really doesn't have a reason to be alive.
Yeah.
And it's a really,
It's a weird conversation to have with somebody. I don't know if you've talked with him about it. But again, going to back to my grandma, I remember talking with her about, when she turned 100, we were talking, and she basically, I don't know, to put it bluntly, she basically feels like, hey, I know I'm on borrowed time, basically. Like,
yeah.
no one's supposed to live this long, and she's like, I didn't even want to live this long, kind of a thing. And it's a weird conversation to have with somebody. She hasn't given up or anything, I mean, she's a fighter. She'll fight till there's no fight left in her, but it's just amazing how you just talking with somebody, how they can just be so at peace with kind of where they are.
Yeah.
Like she's like, I know I'm going to die at some point soon.
And my dad doesn't necessarily have conversations about it, but he makes comments about it.
Yeah.
He lets people know what he's feeling. And he's made those comments to my sister and to my mother. And I just say, thank God my sister's around.
Yes.
Because like getting anything straight from my mother is a very smart woman. And she's very independent. She's takes care of everything in that house. I would never hold anything against her except the fact that sometimes getting, she has her own reality, and who doesn't? It's not necessarily the truth all the time. So to have my sister be able to go over there and kind of, check out the situation and get back to me is huge.
Yeah.
And so she brought my nephews over there, and they all had some ice cream, and she sends me a picture of my dad with the two of them, and he looks fine. It's not like he's like one half because physically debilitated him.
Yeah.
Right.
But so much of what kept him alive, I guess, was his mind.
Yeah.
And if that goes,
yep,
I don't see what's left. If he can't read, now he might as well, my mother asked him, he's like, do you want, because they've got a steep set of stairs to the bedroom upstairs. And my mother's like, do you want to set up a bed downstairs yet? He's like, no, not yet. And I'm just like, whew, at some point, one of those bedrooms is going to have to be converted because like, I can't imagine my dad living another 5 more years. Like, I really can't.
Yeah.
Like, I really am like, it's a hard place to be.
Yeah.
All right. I've always been very practical in about death in a lot of ways. And I will readily admit that a lot of it's because I haven't had to experience it firsthand too much.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to see him have to go a year of not being able to use his body or to be able to do what he wants with his mind. It's like,
that's
I
one
just
thing.
See him go.
That's one thing I said, like when my dad was dying, was that it gave me a lot of relief that he never lost his cognitive function. He never lost his wit. He never lost his essence, essentially. Like that kind of a thing about him. Because if he had, it would have. I mean, it was hard enough losing him, but if I had to watch cognitive decline also, oh my God, it would have just destroyed me even more. And it's honestly, and I know I've said this to Jen in the past, like my biggest fear really is that happens to me. Because it's like, if my mind starts to go, like, I like, just take me out back and put me out of my misery. Because I don't want to live if my mind's gone. Because that is, once you see people go through that, you're just like, that's not an existence. And it's so awful for everyone around them. Not that that's the reason for it, but it's just another thing with it, like you watch somebody who loses someone to Alzheimer's or whatever, and you're just like, man, you just see it destroy them as well,
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I hope that doesn't happen, for him. So.
Because the thing that what marks my life today is I get a lot of joy out of being in this world.
Yeah.
And I see others who have that same joy of being in this world, regardless of their circumstances.
Yeah.
Like my mother, I think my mother is a service-oriented person.
Mm-hmm.
She truly is.
Yeah.
And she gets joy out of that service. I know that.
Yeah.
She has a fire in her that everybody remarks on, that you can't help but, you can't miss it.
Yeah.
It's right there to see. And to me, that is someone who is still getting something out of this life. And my dad has become a little bit more like, it's been going on now for over a year now, where it's like, you could tell he's not exactly happy.
Yeah.
He grabs the moments, but he's not getting joy out of this world any longer.
Right.
And
that is a shame. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and then top this one off is my friend Chris, who I've mentioned before, who has Huntington's disease.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good thing. One is he finally got the test done. He got in with a group, in with a hospital that specializes in it. They helped him get onto disability. They also gave power of attorney, helped set up power of attorney for his dad. And the one thing that they needed was to get that disability, because Chris's dad's, basically supports him. And there's a point where, Chris's dad already went through this with his wife.
Oh, geez.
Like I saw it.
Oh.
I was there.
Yeah.
I saw Chris's mother. I've seen what this disease does. It's brutal.
Can I interrupt you real quick? Can you refresh? I mean, like what is Huntington's disease? Okay,
so Huntington's disease. Imagine you get Alzheimer's ultimately in the end. Your brain is deteriorating to the point where it's literally being eaten up.
Oh, geez.
And
okay.
And so it starts with tremors. So you end up with basically Parkinson's with Alzheimer's.
Oh, geez.
Oh, wow.
But right.
Oof.
So it starts with physical tremors. Like Chris has got, physical tremors.
Yeah.
I can hear it in his voice and stuff like that. But then your brain goes. And so what's happening is your brain is rotting, so to speak.
Oh,
it's just deteriorating. It's falling apart. And in the end, they've got some medications now for the tremors. So we got onto those, but I can hear it. Like I can tell that there's a difference, but there hasn't been a huge difference in his mental acuity. It's still about the same. The difficulty he has holding on to a thought hasn't changed dramatically.
Yeah.
But I can tell his speech is different. The physical part goes first.
Right.
And a lot, some people it hits them earlier than others. There are some people, and it does kill you. I mean,
yeah, right.
This is right. It eventually kills you.
Yeah.
Some people are, gone by the time they're, in their mid 40s. They're done.
Wow.
He's he and I are the same age, so he's just turned 50. It sounds like he's kind of following, how his mother was, and
that's got to be hell on
but
his dad
this
too.
was
Oh,
it's just and that's the thing is that his dad remarried and moved and has a whole new life, and he doesn't want to go through it again with somebody else.
Sure, yeah, right.
So they were going to actually put him in the place was like, well, let's put you in a home.
Yeah.
And luckily there was a counselor there that did an evaluation and said, no, he's still too independent. And he's very independent.
And that's really important because somebody that's still very independent, if you put them in a place where they're no longer that independent, they lose what they have.
Exactly.
They don't exercise that muscle. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And his sons are still coming and seeing him and it's not going to have any effect on his custody and that kind of stuff. But there's still the hard part for me is there's a lack of kind of reality. Like, there's a point where he will not be able to raise these kids.
Yeah.
He won't even be around.
Right.
So all the custody battles and all that stuff is kind of like, it's short-sighted. And this is where some codependency stuff comes in for me is he's lonely.
Yeah.
Like, he's really lonely, and he asked me if I could, like, reach out to some people for him, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do this, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, but I get it. And again, it comes back to my my mother asked me, you know, a while back, you know, can you call him once a month? Is that too much? And it's like, no, you're right. I can call him once a month.
Yeah.
And I can send him an email, and you know, I can do something. But I also I have a real thing about enabling people.
Yeah.
And you know, where I have a difficult time is where, you know, where my what I've learned about codependency and enabling and that kind of stuff runs headlong into legitimate, you know, my empathy.
Yeah. Right.
Right. You know, or
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. And so it's a tough little thing. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to take it one step at a time and just kind of, you know, it's wild how, like, my dad, I would never have a regret about, you know, seeing him or blah, blah, blah. He's never, my family's never done that to me as far as me living in another state and, you know, seeing them once a year, twice a year, maybe. There's never been that kind of a burden that's ever been placed on me. And
which is good, because that is
really
is, unfair to do to somebody. Yeah.
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 But Chris, I might have a regret if I don't keep in touch with him, regardless about how difficult it is.
Yeah.
You know, or how much I don't want to, like, look up some girlfriend he had 20 years ago.
Oh boy. Yeah.
It's like, oh, geez, I don't want to do that stuff.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it is.
For sure.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's funny how, like, that's not the first thing that comes to my mind in my life is that, and I'm happy about that. You know, I'm happy about that stuff doesn't take me out of my existence, and you know, it's on my mind. I'm thinking about it.
Right. It's so easy for it to overpower you, though, you know, so I'm glad too. Because, you know, I mean, I know it's a different scenario, but it was like, you know, with my dad, once, you know, once he was, you know, declared, it was declared that it was terminal, you know, that's all I could think about, you know, for a while. I think I've actually talked about it on here where I was literally counting the days. Like, they told us about how long they thought he'd live, and I'd get up in day 1, day 2, day 3, like, and eventually I was like, I gotta quit this, you know, because it's consuming me. Like, I can't think of anything but this, and that's, you know, that's gonna make him miserable seeing me like this, you know. Like,
that's the other part. As I honestly believe that people don't want others to suffer with them.
Oh, they don't.
That they want them to live. They don't.
Yeah.
And my dad will be 89 in November.
Yeah.
You know, his mother died of a heart attack at 50 something.
Yeah.
His dad died at 73. The fact that he's even alive is really remarkable.
Right.
You know, it's my mother's side of the family that's long lived, not my father's side of the family.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oddly enough, in my family, it's the opposite, but it's only the women. The women in my
only the women live.
I mean, that's not entirely true. My grandma has 12 or 13 siblings.
I can't believe that 100.
And you know, most of them are gone now. She's the oldest one. The youngest one is my Uncle Kenny, who's 80 something. I can't remember how old he is. He's in his 80s. So it is funny when he visited, and you know, I haven't seen him in so long. Actually, I think he was here like when my dad died. But I haven't seen, you know, and that was 14 years ago, you know. So, you know, it's funny because he introduces himself to people as, you know, like my grandma's baby brother, and it's just funny because he's 80 years old, you know.
That's cute.
Yeah.
It really is.
Now, I do it with my sister, but I do it because I just like needling her about getting older because she cares about it and I don't. So I love reminding her that her baby brother is 40, you know? So, yeah.
Well, my sister made this comment because we were talking about the strokes and like you just go down my dad's side of the family and it's like that's where everyone's ended up. And my sister's like, well, hopefully what did she called it? Forks, not knives diet. It's basically, a plant-based diet that'll prevent me from getting a stroke. And I'm just like, if I make it past 80, I could care less if I have a stroke or not. If I make it, I just want to make it to 80.
Yeah.
What happens after that, now 55? Yeah, I kind of care if I end up having a stroke.
Yeah, but
that,
for sure.
As far as like long-term goals, that is not,
Yeah.
I hope I can make it to 90 without having a stroke. It's like, hey, if I just make it past 80, that's a miracle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you.
Boy.
My dad died in his early 60s, and his dad died in what was his late 50s or early 60s. So and I believe his dad died somewhere in like his 50s or 60s. So it's like that's about where the timeline runs out for guys on my dad's side, apparently. So hopefully, it won't turn out that way for me. It'll, now my dad and his dad both had different circumstances because his dad worked in coal mines. So he had black lung. That's what he ended up dying from. And my dad, worked with various chemicals over the years between body work. He reglazed bathtubs. He smoked a long time, so he basically just polluted up his body and lungs. So, whereas I have not done those things. So hopefully, my forks, not knives will.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's one of those things that it's like some of it, with people, it's like, you can't outrun genetics, it's like if it's going to get you, it's going to get you, and there's only so much stress you can put into it. It's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying to heck with it and just I'm eating McDonald's all day, like,
yeah,
like if I'm going to have a heart attack, I'm going to have one, but.
Well, it's the old adage, live for today, plan for tomorrow.
Sure.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Then you know what? I'm glad you just said that, Jen, because that's how I feel like where I'm at right now is from an emotional and intellectual point of view. I'm thinking about tomorrow, but I'm just trying to live my day.
Yeah.
And what I have, what's in front of me next, and that's in enjoying where I'm at in my life today.
Right.
And what I'm doing with the people around me. I think that's why I really do, because I do have a tendency to isolate. Me playing music is a great thing because it keeps it has me interacting with people at levels that are sometimes intense in ways that there's no emotional aspect to my work. Work is easy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, you have to deal with people's personalities, but it's not personal. Music can be very personal.
It really can,
different deal.
because it's a creative thing. So you feel like you feel like if it's attacked, you're being attacked, even though it's generally not the case. But that's how it's taken a lot. Pretty much in any creative field is that way.
Yeah, and so that's something that that's what I'm really looking forward to it because of that. It's good for me. It's good for me to have that type of interaction with something beyond my house and my dogs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so how about you guys?
Well, Henno, don't forget your phone. You have your phone too. And your iPad.
Oh Lord, my tech.
Yeah.
Eek.
Yep. All right, you want to go next, Jen, or you want me to?
No, I can go.
Okay.
So, kind of pick up where I left off last week. Last week I was having a bit of the downs, and and I've been working through it. which is the good part.
Yeah.
And I've been I recognize the situation I was in. I recognize why I was in that situation, and I worked to pull myself out of it. I made sure that I was taking my medicine on time and consistently. I made sure that I cut way back to none of the alcohol for a short time to kind of let the medicine rebuild in the system and get myself all nice and even keel again. And, and I do feel better. So I know it's still there. I know it's still lingering. So I just kind of have to keep an eye on things to make sure that I don't let it consume me, and that but I'm managing through it, which is a good thing.
Good.
Trying to think. So I'm planning. I spent the weekend actually planning for an upcoming trip. We're going up north for 4 days for the holiday. So that should be fun. It's going to be interesting because we're bringing our dogs and it's my in-laws' cabin, and so, or lake house, and they have 3 dogs. So we're going to have 5 dogs total.
Oh boy.
And
Oh boy.
Yeah.
so we have 5 dogs. The smallest one is 20 pounds. The largest one is 96 pounds. And we have a 250s and a 75 in the mix.
Jeez. Nice. A horse for everybody. Yeah. Unfortunately, whoever gets the 20-pound one's going to be like in the cartoons when Porky Pig has the little horse or the donkey or whatever they ride.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, and my brother-in-law, my husband's youngest brother, is going to be up there as well. So, yeah. So it's going to be quite the vacation. On top of all of this, they just sold the lake house. So so this is going to be the last trip up there because they have to be out of the lake house by the end of the month. So we're like, okay. And a lot of the things that they are getting rid of are going to be coming to our house. So on top of going up there, dealing with the 5 dogs, dealing with family, which I love dearly, but it's just a different family than my family. We all have that. And plus we're going to be packing and moving stuff. So, and I'm going to be faced with it's the lake house is in the community, and one of my favorite cousin-in-laws is going to be up there, and she has her sisters and stuff will be up there. So they're going to be partying and having a good time. So there's going to be that temptation on top of everything else. So it's going to be a lot of mixture of a lot of crazy, fun, wonderfulness that I'm going to have to make sure I keep myself stabilized through.
Yeah, that's going to be quite a pile of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot of static. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
A lot of noise.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And so I've actually been toying around with, I'm going to go pseudo Twitter dark, I think. Step away from my phone. Because I just think it's going to be too much else going on that the time that I do have that's quiet time, I'm probably going to be needing to spend that on self-reflection and managing everything going on in my head. I think I'm going to actually make an official announcement on, how people do that. If anything, I might tell a couple people that I kind of talk to daily that I may not be around as much.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I might pop in and out. Who knows, given the circumstances of what happens up there. But for the most part, I think I'm going to take the time to kind of just reconnect and kind of focus in on what I need to focus in on. So, but I'm trying to think of anything else. Actually, something that I did kind of what you were talking about, Henno, that kind of brought up in my mind. My stepdad actually has Parkinson's, and I get what you were saying about how your mom kind of lives in this alternate reality of sorts.
I thought the exact same thing when he was saying it. Yeah.
My mom does that as well, and she kind of sees what she wants to see, and she kind of puts her own spin on things.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a reason for it.
I was going to say, and to be fair, it's not all bad. It's not, there is an element to it to where
mechanisms.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly.
It has to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get it from her too, because I realize I do the same thing as and that kind of twisting things and turning things to kind of make them more palatable and easier to deal with and work through. I think it's just, like you said, it's coping mechanism that we have. And it's stuff that's kind of inherited too. We watch our parents doing these things our entire lives. We're going to pick up on it. It's going to, some of that's going to seep through. But at the beginning of the year, I think I know I spoke about it on here. I went to visit because I heard the voice. I heard in her voice, I'm like, okay, I need to go. I need to be there. Because what she was saying in the tone of her voice were not matching up. And I'm like, okay, something's not.
It goes
kosher.
to how I mentioned at the end of the show about checking on your friends that always tell you they're fine.
Right.
That a lot of times when people say they're fine, you can, like that. I'm sure your mom was saying, I'm fine, everything's fine. And you're like, yeah, no, I can hear that things aren't,
In just the words that the words that were being used, like, oh, well, things are not as good as they were the other day, but we're doing okay.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You're, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So, and I went down there and things were not good, unfortunately, but things weren't good at all. And so I, helped with what I could, and I kind of got the lay of the land, and I understood kind of where everything was at. The good news is they went back to the doctor. The doctor switched meds up, and he's doing amazingly well now.
Oh, wow. Great.
So, so it was one of those things that, it just I guess I can't think of the right word I want to use, but reinforced. It just reinforced in me that, utilize all the tools that you have in your toolbox, from your doctors, from your family, from your friends, utilize all the tools in your toolbox. And once those tools have all been used and all been exhausted, you go back and you try them all again, and you just keep trying. But ultimately, the things that I have learned is when it's time, and that's okay. And we were, at the beginning of the year, we were kind of in the wrap-up mode. We're like, okay, maybe it's time.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the doctors found another medication to use and stuff. I mean, he's got Parkinson's. It's terminal.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. There is no cure for it.
Right.
And it's one of those things. It's a degenerative disorder that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But by no means do I want to rush it.
No.
Does anybody want to rush things? So, and it just, I think it just kind of just like I said, just kind of reinforced in me just going through all of this. And I'm really excited because I'm going to be going down again in September to kind of see where things are at. But it's at the point now that they're taking a trip to Tennessee. They live in Florida right now, and they're actually driving to Tennessee.
Nice.
They're going to take multiple days. I'm not a huge fan of the idea, but
yeah.
Gareth, make your own decisions.
Yep.
And they're going to do it, of course, across 2-3 days to kind of go up to Tennessee, spend a few days there, and then come home. They're going to go see some friends, but they're going to kind of see how this trip goes. And it just every time I think with that, okay, this might be it. It just reminds me that, no, you don't get to decide these things.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it's like, no, you don't get to prepare. You don't get to plan. You don't get to prep yourself, and get things all aligned nice and neat in your mind and your heart and everything. You don't get to do that.
No.
Because as soon as it is, then you get the curveball.
Right. Well, even, again, going back to my dad, we had a pretty set timeline of when things were going to happen, and even still, it still caught us all off guard. And we were prepared as can be for it, and it still knocked us right off our feet, basically. So yeah, it is funny, like much like anything that, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but anytime, human arrogance shows its face, it seems like there's some, whatever you want to call it, force that kind of puts us back in check. Yeah, you're not as important or as strong as you think you are. And by strong, I don't mean like mentally strong. I just mean like you can't control what you think you can control,
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of, it's interesting when you stop and you try to plan and you try to figure things out and you try to, because I'll be absolutely frank, I was planning my emergency fund to go down there quickly, because I figured that this was going to be the year, and
the way you had told me stuff, I pretty much was that way too. Like I was kind of expecting you to at some point tell me that you were heading down there for bad news, so I'm glad that hasn't been the case.
Yeah, and I'm thrilled, and I'm hopeful that things sound really wonderful. Yeah. And I'm hoping things are as wonderful as they sound, and everything's going to be good for another year or two. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
Kind of see how things go. But yeah, it's interesting. Life is just full of all sorts of fun curveballs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I've been. How about you, Brian?
So today was one of those days where at 9:30 this morning, I heard something. It sounded like a thump kind of a sound. And I kind of turned in bed, and when I did, I realized my fan was off. And I was like, what the heck, And I look, and I'm like, our power's out. And I was like, well, I heard a thump, so I was like, and on the other side of my wall is where the circuit breaker is. So I was like, well, I'm going to go check, because it kind of almost sounded like, when you trip a breaker. And so I went and checked, and no, it was, I reset it just to make sure nothing happened. I was like, man, because, it was, 90-something and humid here today. It still is humid as heck out there. So I'm like, oh man, this is going to suck. And I had to get up because I needed to go to my doctor today. And, I'm awake, I'm hot. So I can't get back to sleep because of the heat. So since I can't get back to sleep, my brain starts doing if you fall asleep now, you get 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. You might as well get up, and eventually that's what I did. I just got up because I was so hot, and I was like, man. So I go in to take a shower, and I'm standing there right before I turn the shower on, and I'm like, I don't know if we'll have any hot water. Like, I think there'll be enough probably for me to run in and run out, basically, kind of a scenario. Now, anyone who knows me knows I can take a cold shower, but I don't want to take, like, ice cold shower if I can help it,
Yeah, there's cool, then there's...
Yeah.
Damn, that's cold.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, if I can get in there and basically, the last things I wash are my beard and my head. So I was like, if I can get everything else done, I can tolerate that cold on my head because it actually feels good most of the time, So I'm hurrying up, and I had hot water all the way through, but it was still maybe one of the fastest showers I've ever taken, which is funny because I have taken ice cold showers back when I had hives for a long time. And every time I got them, that was like the only way I could get them to stop itching, was basically numb my skin with cold water. So... yeah, I was like, okay, well, whatever. It's like, well, I lucked out with that at least. I had enough to all I needed was enough to knock the cold off of it, And there was actually more than that. It was actually just a normal shower for me. But, so I get on, my brother was taking me to my appointment. He calls and he goes, "Hey, I'm stuck in traffic because over by the mall that's by him, they're doing a whole bunch of construction. And basically there's areas over there now where you can't turn left. So you have to go way out of your way." And he got stuck in that. And, cause he had to go to the post office. And I'm like, okay, and, he's like, "If you still want me to take you, I will." But he's like, "I don't know if I'm going to be 10 minutes late or 20 minutes late." So I'm like, okay, well, I called my doctor, and told him. And luckily, since I was just going to get my shot of testosterone today, they were like, "Oh, we can squeeze you in whenever you get here," basically. Because it's literally a nurse walks in, gives me a shot in the butt, and I'm out the door. So I was like, okay, cool. So I, called him and told him so he wouldn't, break his neck trying to get here, But his day started off like just everything was going wrong for him, kind of a thing. So together we were kind of like, we didn't have the best batting average going into the day, and but everything turned out fine or whatever. It's just funny how easily, like with him, he was frustrated. Like I could tell because he had like 3 or 4 things go wrong for him from the point he started today. Like he got partway through shaving and realized that his razor was probably too dull to shave with, and had to finish with it because he didn't realize he didn't have any more blades. And he's already half shaved, so you can't you gotta finish. And I was like, dude. So I told him, I said, make a habit of every time you go to shave, check to make sure you have an extra one first. If you don't, maybe skip shaving that day. Like, oh man. It's just like if you use trimmers or something to cut your hair and you're a bald guy, make sure they are charged before you start.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you remember when our friend Mike guy, he did half of his head and wore like a knit hat to our bowling because he ran out of juice and time. So,
oh no.
Yeah. So, good tips for people there. But anyway, it's, he was frazzled, but it was kind of humorous because when we got to, my doctor's in the hospital in the city. So, we get there and he's like, he's just going to wait in the car. And, he goes, "Maybe I can find my Zen." And we laughed about it because it was just, he wouldn't have been that guy a few years ago, but he's kind of bought into that as well, to where he understands now how meditation can, even for 5-10 minutes, can really make a difference. Just breathe, calm down, let it go, kind of a thing. So I come out and he's got like a towel over him and he's got his ball cap like down over his eyes. Like he was taking a nap basically.
That's awesome.
But he has, I forgot what the condition is, but it's the one like he's lost the pigment in a lot of his skin on his arms. And if he's in the sun, he burns super fast. So that's why he had the towel over him, because, it was a hot day and the sun was out. And so it was just kind of funny walking up and, I got in the car and I'm like, "Did you find yours then?" And he goes, "Yeah, actually," he's like, "I feel I'm good now." And I was like, "Awesome." Like let's get after it then. But, yeah, it's just humorous how so many of us, like you, me, him, like, all looked at this stuff years ago and we're like, whatever, and now here we are and realizing there actually might have been something to this all along and
putting it to use.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cool. My favorite part about being at the hospital today was my walk out. So I'm in the elevator, I hit down, I'm on the 3rd floor. At the 2nd floor, it stops because somebody else is getting on. Well, I just walk out of the elevator, and and it's these two older African American guys, and they're like, and the one guy was like, he's like, young man, and I was, and I didn't turn around because I'm 40, but no, so he actually, no, I just didn't hear him actually, but he said it again, and I turned around, and he's like, that's the second floor, and I'm like, oh, and I turned to get back on the elevator because I totally spaced. The elevator stopped. It must be at my floor.
You know what they call that?
What?
Premature evacuation.
Yeah. Dang it, Henno. So, we're laughing about that, as it goes to the first floor, and we kind of, strike up a bit of a conversation or whatever. So as we're walking out, the one guy looks at me and he's like, you have yourself a good day. And I was like, well, thank you. You too. And he goes, oh, I am. He's like, I just got discharged. He's like, I'm going to get me some liquor. And, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was like, well, I hope you enjoy it. And then as they're walking away, I hear the other guy ask him if he wants, clear or brown, And I just like that. I just love the concept of, do you want tequila or what? It's like, no, clear or brown. And then I guess you from there discern which. Yeah. But I'm going to get me some liquor. Yeah. All right. Have a good day, man. This, mind you, this is like 1:30 in the afternoon. Or no, 2 o'clock,
Nice.
Yeah. Nice, gotta go get yourself a nice paper bag lunch, if you will, Yeah. So yeah, it was, funny how the day kind of stunk on the beginning, but it's, turned out to be fine or whatever. And, so like this week, my headaches have actually lessened over the last few days. I had a bad one yesterday. But before that, I had 3 days without one, which is the longest streak I've had in about 2 months.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, that was nice, finally having that. But during my headache brain fog, I didn't realize that basically I had run out of prescriptions on like 2/3 of my medicine. And I'm like,
ooh.
And when I realized this was Friday night, where, you can't do anything about it until Monday. And I'm like, I don't have any blood pressure medicine for the rest of the weekend. This isn't good.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I'm a person who needs blood pressure medicine. So I was like, oh man, and, so yeah, but I talked to the pharmacy. They were nice enough to, basically give me just enough to get through the weekend. So.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And I have a doctor's appointment with my family or my general practitioner tomorrow. So, that'll all be resolved then. But I was like, geez, just that's the kind of stuff that happens to me when I have migraines is my brain does not fire the way it normally does. And I forget stuff like that normally I would have been on top of, but I'm not because normally when I take my pills as I get lower, I look to see if there's refills. If there isn't, I then contact the doctor's office. If there is, I don't worry about it, So, yeah, that was, so yeah, like I said, that'll all be resolved tomorrow, but, it's so frustrating because, it's like when you're smart enough to remember something.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, on a normal day, I have enough trouble remembering things. This is the kind of stuff I don't forget generally. I'm usually really good about my medicines, but I was like, oh, yeah. Because, at that point, my only option really was to go to like an urgent care or something like that, or the hospital to get them to give me a new prescription, basically, The pharmacy I go to in Kroger, the grocery store, they used to have a little clinic in there that actually was open on the weekend, like Saturday. I don't think it was open Sunday, but I think it was open on Saturday. And they have a doctor there. So worst case scenario, I could have went in there and, they would have given me, a prescription for it. But they don't have that anymore. So what are you going to do? But yeah, it's been interesting few days for me. Nothing really bad though, like it's been pretty good. My depression's been pretty good, and I think that's because we've had a lot of sun the last week or so. It's been mostly sunny. We've actually had very little rain over the last week, so which is nice because first of all I can get outside. And, well, not that I'm spending a lot of time outside in, 90-degree weather, but at least I can go outside for, spurts.
Right.
But the sun just makes so much difference, that I really, I think this past winter and this spring, summer season has really highlighted for me that I really need to get one of those lamps. That replicate daylight kind of a thing. I really need to get one of those. So I was looking into them the other night, and I think they have like cheap ones that go on your desk for like $40 or something, or $30, something like that. So I need to get one of those because I think I'm the type of person that will benefit from it. So
yeah, at least it's worth a try,
right? Yeah, it's so yeah, that's something that'll be interesting talking with my doctor tomorrow. Actually, is I'm gonna try to see if I can go off of my Wellbutrin because he dropped my dosage and I feel the same. So it's like, well, let's try one more and see. Because that'll tell me right there. Like, so either I needed a lower dosage or I don't need it. That's basically where I'm at. So if I can go off of it here and see what happens, if I feel fine, I'm done with it, at least for now, So, because that's my goal is to try to get off some of these medicines that I'm on. Because
I can bet.
For so many reasons. One, then I don't have to remember them, but. So yeah, that's
All right. Well, cool.
Yeah, I was trying to think if I had anything else, but I can't really think. I know there was something else I was gonna say because I had like 3 major like talking points, and I have a notebook right here. It's not like I couldn't have written them down, but I didn't. So what are you gonna do?
Well, we normally would have a topic to discuss this week, but I think we did a good job of just kind of catching up. And some days it's just good to sit back and just have a good old-fashioned chat.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, actually, before we stop here, I actually want to mention something that I saw the other day that I actually kind of am considering getting myself a little bit. This is from bestself.co, and it's called Courage Over Comfort Deck. And it's basically to help people push their boundaries, like of things that they're anxious about, or just overall personal development kind of a thing. And each one of the cards has got, it's got stuff that will scare a lot of people. And I don't mean scare as in it's just more like one I'm looking at right now says, sing as loud as you can in your car with the windows down.
Yeah.
Like it's stuff like that.
Yeah,
to where
pushing the boundaries a little bit.
Pushing the boundaries, but not putting yourself in any real harm or, for a lot of people, wouldn't put you into like panic attack mode kind of thing, I think there's over 100, or there's 150 prompts in the deck. I'm looking through the thing because I thought there were more examples, but I can't find other ones now. I know there were more.
That's cool. So it's like a deck of cards?
Yeah, it's a deck, and basically, you draw a card and do what the card says, essentially. I saw one that was, I can't remember what it was now. Shoot. I really wish they had more examples here, because I'd like to point out more, but I can't remember. But yeah, they had quite a few that I read when I first saw this that I thought were kind of interesting ones. Like I think even one was like something like, just hold the door open for 5 people today, or just, little stuff like that, those can be just icebreaker kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was going into a store today to return a cart because they don't have cart corral, so I was going to take it back into the store. And when I got up to the door, they don't have automatic doors. So I was like, oh man, because this becomes a problem. Well, there was a woman walking up next to me. She actually went into a full run to get up to the door before me so she could open the door for me.
Wow.
And I was like, again, it was 90 degrees and humid outside today. And she went into a full run to get to that door. So, of course, I said thank you. And, I appreciate that because I did. Not that I couldn't have done it, but it does become a problem trying to get a cart into unless I back it in, because the doors don't open automatically. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah. So the point of this deck is to just get, kind of push you into places, socially, like to push against social anxiety a little bit, or just kind of to get you to just let go a little bit. Like the singing with the windows down. Singing with the windows up, most people can't hear you. With the windows down, especially with it being summer, other people are probably going to have their windows down, So, yeah. You just get to a point where you just don't care what anyone else thinks, and you just, get lost in the song, basically. Live in your now.
And then one other thing I wanted to mention that I saw, I know you guys have heard of weighted blankets because that's been around for quite a bit now.
Yeah.
They have cooling ones now.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good.
Mm.
Yeah, I was very excited to see that because part of some trouble I have in the summertime is I need to have weight on me to sleep better.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time staying asleep in the summertime just because of the heat and everything. So a cooling weighted blanket is probably going to be next on my list.
Yeah. I can see that. That's, yeah, when I first saw those, I was like, ooh, because I'm kind of like you. There's times I don't like sleeping without a sheet or a blanket or something on me, but I get so hot I don't really have a choice. So this could be good for all sorts of people, I'm sure.
Exactly. So just letting people know there is another option out there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So with that, if you would like to continue the conversation with us, we would love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. You can reach me direct via Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. You can also, if you want to hear more from me, you can check me out on shakethesheets.com. It's a pop culture talk podcast. And Henno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. Find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter, and on Facebook Messenger. And our Moving the Needle podcast has got a couple of episodes up. And we're putting out a new one every 2 weeks. So please check that out if you're into movies and film. And we just got some great personalities. And I like listening to podcasts for the personalities. And I think we do it right.
Yep. I agree. I listened to your episode on movie terrorists, and Sean won that round, by the way. He won the whole show. But, well, I take that back. You had a really good one that I can't argue with. But, yeah, definitely go check those out. That was good fun. Their first one's on movie terrorists, and the second one is a look back at Do the Right Thing. So,
thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm a big supporter of it. You can also check out this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. And occasionally I throw an article or something in there, something I find that I think is interesting. You can also find me on Twitter at Stunami, my other podcast can be found at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so please be careful who you're listening to it around. You can find our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. If you didn't know already, we're on Spotify, and we're part of Danger Entertainment, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. And we're also part of the Tangentbound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And, whew, that's a lot. Whew. No,
Cool.
yeah, whew. You know, it reminds me of one of my favorite things was how Letterman used to do stuff like that, and then he would kind of put his hands on his knees, bending over, and be like, whoo!
Yeah.
Yeah. If you feel you need help, please reach out. We didn't talk about it as much on this episode as we normally do, but, please reach out. There's people out there willing to help. You're not alone, and you don't have to suffer as much, just reach out and, try, go get the estimate, as I've said before. Go see what's going on, and then you can decide from there what you want to do. And also reach out to people, that you haven't talked to in a while, or somebody that that's going through a rough time, or just that friend that always, talks about that they're fine. Just, reach out and talk to people. And while you're at it, like the woman who ran up to the door for me today, after she did that, I held the door open for 3 other people after that. So, nice. Which I would do anyway, but, I paid it forward either way. And I'm patting myself right on the back with that. No. No, but, just do something nice for somebody. Just spread some kindness out there, because we certainly need it. There's just too much out there. So, Yeah.
Exactly. Another really cool thing to do that most of the time doesn't cost too much money is pay for somebody else's drink. Like if you're in the morning, everyone's line up, get their coffee, you're in the drive-through, just ask, hey, what they get behind me? And usually they'll tell you how much it would be. And just, here's a couple bucks. Buy them a coffee. Just a little thing to make their day. So anything we can do to help each other smile more and just enjoy life better, let's all get together. Let's work together to make this a little bit more enjoyable. So with that, have a great week.